Traveling to Consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri. And in today's podcast, we are talking about last week in review. We've got a little bit of a news cycle here. So kind of going to go over the highlights with you. We're going to talk about a budget resolution, which is really not a resolution at all. That's going to raise the debt ceiling. We're going to talk about Trump announcing a chip manufacturer investment coming to America. We're going to talk about the SCOTUS, which is the Supreme Court of the United States. They ruled on frozen assets to USAID. We're going to talk about how Doge found 7 grants for animal testing that we probably shouldn't be doing. And then we talk about Greenland's fight for independence and Trump's talk in regards to him seizing the island. And we have a potentially another war crime about to be committed by Israel. All of that in this podcast. So let's get started with talking about the debt resolution bill that was passed. Essentially, they decided that we don't have enough debt in America, and Congress decided to raise the debt ceiling from $36 trillion to $40 trillion. And it will be able to spend enough money to go all the way up to $56 trillion in 10 years. And at the rate at which we are accruing debt, it's going to hit 56 far beyond that, far before that 10-year mark. And this is not good. We have a spending problem. We have an absolute spending problem, and it has to stop. It has to absolutely stop. And it cannot be solved with the same state of consciousness in which it was created. The same state of consciousness with which all of our Congress has been acting upon for the last however many years. We have to create solutions, and we, quite frankly, it's not even about consciousness. It's about spending less. We spend so much money and get so little for return. So we need to put the power of spending money back into the hands of the people. We have to stop Congress, our government, from becoming bigger, for putting us deeper and deeper in debt. Because the only people it is going to hurt is you and I, the common man. Because when these things happen, when this inevitable market crash occurs, you and I are going to be the ones who front the bill. Look at what happened in 2008 with the housing market crash. They bailed out big banks, but didn't help the little guy, didn't help the common man who got completely crushed by all of these things. And so we definitely have a very devastating economic collapse on the verge. Now, hopefully, and I think this was one of the positive aspects that I saw with Trump, and I've always seen it with him, is that he is a businessman. So he knows how to talk to business leaders around the world, which I always have thought was a good thing. Definitely is still a good thing. And one of those things that have come to fruition is that he has announced a $100 billion investment in chip manufacturing from Taiwan. And I think that it's good visually. It's good energetically for America to see these investments coming in. The problem is exactly what we just talked about, though, in the very last clip, which is that Congress is just going to spend this money. They're going to spend it frivolously. They're going to spend it on things that we don't need. They're going to spend it on things that they see fit, maybe on themselves. So regardless of how much money this great business leader, let's say, brings in money, it's almost null and void because our government is going to waste it. That's great. We brought $100 billion in, but when you're talking about raising the debt ceiling $4 trillion, which is absolutely absurd, an insane amount of money, not to mention we're at 36 trillion, $100 billion is just a drop in the bucket. It really is. So we have to stop spending money. It's like, it's crazy. I mean, it absolutely blows my mind from a business perspective, having ran businesses myself, is that we do need a business leader, but for some reason, Trump has not put his foot down when it comes to these spending bills. I mean, the House was the one that passed this budget resolution. So we need to see if Trump is actually going to agree or disagree, because he should absolutely disagree. I think any conversation about the debt ceiling being raised is asinine and insane. So we need to get rid of that. And I think the other thing that would light a fire is if Trump started talking about the elimination of our income tax, because that was a promise that he made in the campaign. So I'd love to see that. We're seeing all of this spending going up and up. Well, how about we hit the government where it hurts? We start taking away their money and putting it back in our pockets and letting us decide the future of the world, not letting the government decide the future of our country, but letting the American people decide the future of our country. And that would be so powerful, so powerful. Another thing that we have in regards to money is the Supreme Court ruled that nearly $2 billion in frozen USAID payments that's annoying. I just got hit with an ad. That they could be paid out. Sorry, I'm pulling up the thing right here. So the Supreme Court on Wednesday denied the Trump administration's request to block the lower court's ruling for the administration to pay nearly $2 billion in foreign aid money, delivering a near-term reprieve to international aid groups and contractors seeking payment for previously completed projects. In a 5-4 ruling, the justices said that the February 26th deadline imposed by the lower court for the Trump administration to pay the funds had already expired and directed the case back to the district court to clarify. So here's the thing. Here's my whole big takeaway with this. And this goes right back to our money situation. The way the Constitution is laid out is that the House of Representatives and the Senate, our Congress, determines where we spend money. And yes, there's checks and balances, of course, that go with the president, but they determine where we spend money. And so I do not see it as being a strong precedent for our president to go in and start making decisions on where we spend our money, how we spend it. With that being said, and this is where it gets convoluted, is that USAID, this agency, is not funding the development of foreign countries in at least a good way. It seems to be going to terrorist organizations. It's been proven to go to terrorist organizations. So we have to stop. We have to stop this. The money is absolutely out of control. And quite frankly, even the next story I have for you guys highlights, and we can actually get into a little bit of a spiritual conversation with this next story here, because this one actually highlights a spiritual aspect of the issues that we're causing with the money that we are spending in our government. So here we have the title, Doge Department of Government Efficiency says 7 grants for trans animal testing canceled. The audits expanded and said that there were, quote, shady expenditures happening. So there were several grants for transgender experiments on animals, which just is a mouthful to begin with. So there were 7 grants, which included $532,000, another $3,000, and this include use a mouse model to investigate the effects of cross-sex testosterone treatment, another $33,000 to test quote, feminizing hormone therapy in the male rat. Now, there's a lot to be said about this. My personal main takeaway is I think that we need to do away with animal testing. What is the intent of animal testing? Why are we experimenting with chemicals and drugs that are not found in nature? We should be leveraging things found in nature, things that we know to be beneficial, and use them. We should no longer be synthesizing chemicals out of nature to make them less pure. We should be using the things that God, that nature created for humans to use so that we can become more in tune with nature as an effect. It's not an accident. It's not crazy that mental health issues are off the chart, that people are essentially losing their mind and going crazy because we have become so disconnected from nature. And to see us torment animals, it's not right. It's just not right. And it's something that we truly need to address. And I mean, I think this is a good entry point, but you can expand it out on all the horrific experimentation that we do to animals, to pass drugs, to pass chemicals for us to put on our bodies. And even those come with labels. Think about the countless number of animals that have been tested on to get you something, get you a product that we think we need, but we don't. So I like this story because it opens up the conversation, I think, around the whole idea of animal testing. I think it's something that has not been in the public eye for a very long time. And I think it's something we need to talk about more as a country. I don't see the benefit in it. I think if there's something that is questionable, we just shouldn't use it. And maybe there's off chance things, but as a meta rule, we shouldn't be testing things on animals. I think it's a very... Let me put it like this. If we look at it in terms of a spiritual lens of everything and everyone is us and we are everything, that would include animals. So to put your mind into the idea of, if you were this animal, would you want that happening to you? I find that to be a powerful question, and if we should do the testing. I'd say 9 times out of 10, probably 9.9999999 times out of 10. So what is that, like 9? It's a big number. 9,999 times out of 10,000. We are going to say no. We should stop animal testing. I don't see the power in it. I don't see the purpose. I don't see how it makes us more connected to the thing that we should be connected to, which is nature. The sun, the grass, the air. These are tangible things. These are concrete reality that we are getting our minds, our bodies, and emotions detached from. We need to become more attached to those things. And I think the fact that we torture animals, because that's what it is. It's not, I mean, you can call it animal testing, but like, that's what happened whenever they were in Nazi Germany and they were trying to test out different things, is they would test them on the Jews. And they would say, oh, okay, yeah, there's some gruesome stories that I'm not going to get into that they did, but they were very gruesome stories of human testing that they did. And that's not right. And I think that we need to take that same approach whenever we look at animals, is it's another step. It's not something that I would want done to me if I were that animal. So we need to stop. I think the time has come. I think our place has come in the universe, and time for, with this great age of awakening, that a piece of that is to stop all of the animal testing. And it can be done. The issue is that people make a lot of money off of it. And that's what the pushback's going to be. Drug companies, pharmaceutical companies, trillion-dollar industries. Of course they're going to push back on it. They want to keep their money. Their money is more important to them. The control is more important to them than the lives of these animals. So we need to take that into consideration. And talking about taking things into consideration, there has been more conversation around Trump fueling his plan to seize the island of Greenland. And I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, because I see it in this as well, is that we cannot force people what to do. He believes that we need to seize Greenland, take control of it because it's a good strategic position that we need to hold. He takes this same tone whenever speaking about Canada, whenever speaking about Gaza, whenever speaking about Mexico. Maybe not so much Mexico, but he talks about it in the other ones. And the fundamental thing that I see here is I agree on the premise that I'm all for America expanding because the Constitution's great. It's amazing. There's some flaws for sure we could improve, but it's amazing. It's the best document that's ever been created in history of political government formation. But it cannot be done without the consent of the people who live in said country. You see the fight with Canada and how ugly it is, right? I think ugly is the perfect word for it. We should be focused on making America so amazing, so great, that every other country's the people of all these other countries start to think, wow, yeah, like they're doing something right. I want that guy. I want that country to be in control of us as well. I want to join them as a state. That's how great of a country we should be and strive to be, and to put America first. We should not be the ones leading the charge on forcing other countries to become states, because all you're going to do is create more division, more anger, more frustration within those countries. Well, newly found states, but within the people of those areas. Because we do have to become united. We have to become united. And the division that I see between borders is a huge contributor to war. It's a huge contributor to it. So we do need to be unified, but, a very important but it has to be with the agreeance of the people. The common man of this world, the common people of this world, the common women, children of this world have to agree and have to want for us to come together. They have to see an America that they say, a United States of America that is united, not one that goes around seizing land. We've tried that. As humans, we've tried that. It doesn't work. It creates more problems than good. And speaking of seizing land, this just came out today that Israel is going to probably create another war crime, do another little war crime, because they said that they're cutting off the electricity supply in Gaza. Israel has decided that it's going to cut off it, and the full effects are not immediately clear. But, just in case, and they're obviously putting this under the light of needing to kill Hamas and destroy Hamas and damage Hamas, when the reality is that the innocent people who have all been basically completely displaced, have been pushed into the southern region of Gaza, are going to become destroyed. It's very inhumane. It's literally a war crime, and yet it's all passed off under this guise of, we have to kill Hamas. And then the other argument that you will always hear is, well, Israel's our only ally in the Middle East. And I think that if your friend is going around murdering people and it's your only friend, you probably need to make other friends. And I think it's also very important for us to realize that Israelis, the people, they aren't all on board with this either. Majority of people actually want to get Netanyahu out of office. And so I say all of this because we have to realize, and I think it's very important for us to realize, is that the conversation is not about Israel versus Palestine. The real conversation is the government of Israel against Hamas. And you have to realize that the majority of people who suffer are the Israeli citizens and the Palestinians, the civilians of both of these areas, who want no part in this, who are not responsible for this. So I think that it is very clear and getting more and more clear and evident to me that this is just an eradication, whatever you want to call it, but it's a destruction of another people. It's a massacre. They've cornered them into the southern area. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Rafah. But they've cornered them into this small area. They've bombed refugee camps. And I think it's just insane. A great example I heard recently, I think it was Tim Dillon, which is crazy, but he's a funny guy. But an example I heard recently was, if you have a school shooter in a school, right? Say, we know this all too well as Americans, there are school shooters. And if you have a school shooter in the school, the police don't just go in and start killing everybody in the school to get the school shooter. You would sit there and say that's insane. However, for some reason, whenever the police is the Israeli government, when the school shooter is Hamas and the civilians are Palestinians, everyone's like, yep, thumbs up, casualties of war happen, that's fine, kill them. It's a part of the war. That's just, that's just what it is. We need to start appreciating life more. We need to hold life in a higher standard. And that comes back to the things we talked earlier in this podcast with animal testing, is that we need to hold life to a higher standard. We need to appreciate our own lives more. We need to appreciate the lives of other people more. And this goes back to the fact that we draw a line in the sand. Your skin color is different than mine. Your hair is different than mine. You don't even have hair. It's silly. It's really silly. If you zoom out, it's actually very silly that we are unable to come together, to see that we are far more common than we are different. And I think that'll be a part of this Great Awakening, is that we will start to realize that we are all the same from a place of the soul. Physical layer, we will always have differences. We'll always have differences. Men will have physical differences than women. People who are of a specific ethnicity will have a different physical appearance than people of a different ethnicity. That'll just always be there. But we have to stop looking at people in terms of the physical layer. We have to start looking at people in terms of their soul, who their soul is, what their soul is. And this takes a level of education and understanding. And this is also why I would encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. You can go to my Linktree. If you go, you'll see my newsletter there. And I think that I'll help provide you with education and knowledge that will aid in being able to see people's souls. And here's the thing is, before you can see someone else's soul, you have to be connected to your own. And this knowledge will help you see that. It'll help you connect. It'll help connect you to that. And by becoming connected to our souls, we will become so powerful that we will stamp out evil. These people who want to destroy nature, who want to destroy humans. That knowledge, not that knowledge, but that thought process will be eradicated from this earth. It's what's talked about in every single sacred text, from the Quran to the Mahabharata, the Vedas. It's not the Mahabharata, I believe it's the Vedas that talk about it. The Bible, the Torah, they all speak of it. And there's probably more that I don't know of, but it's about the new heaven and the new earth. And we're here to create it. You listening to this podcast are here to create it. The issue is that there's a gap between what we know and creating that outcome. If we had all the knowledge, we would already be at that outcome. And I don't have all the knowledge. That's why I'm creating this podcast, why I create those Indigo education pieces. But I am giving you the bits of knowledge that I am learning along the way so that you can become more connected to your soul, so that you can have proper knowledge, so that you can aid in creating world peace on planet Earth, so that we can all come together and join in harmony. And so with that being said, I really hope you sign up for the newsletter so that we can stay connected. And I know for sure that I will see you all in the 6th dimension.